And before we begin, I just want to read a statement about the way we're operating. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the state of emergency on March 12th, Governor Baker issued an executive order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Pursuant to the order, public bodies are temporarily relieved of the open meeting law's requirement that meetings be held in public places open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative measures. We have made an effort to try to meet in person, and one of the challenges is there isn't a room large enough to just be open to the public. So we were trying to work with Zoom for the public and in person for us, and we just found that there were too many problems with technology. As a matter of fact, our last meeting was a disaster in terms of being able for the public to hear all of the meeting. So until we work out the technical pieces, we're going to be operating remotely, and we want to be clear that it's so that we can make sure that the information gets out to the public in the most clear way. In addition to that, we want to make sure that people know, starting tonight, the Zoom link was posted as part of our agenda, and during citizens' comments, and I'm going to repeat this message partway through the meeting, but during the citizens' comments portion of our meeting, citizens with a question or comment can join the meeting through the Zoom link that is posted now, and the chat feature will be enabled at the citizens' comment portion of the agenda. Participants are asked to comment in the chat if they would like to speak. You should indicate your name and address in the chat, and you will be let into the meeting at the appropriate point. So that's another effort that we're making, just to stay in touch with people during our meetings. And with that, I will go to the first item on the agenda, unless there are any committee members that want to add anything to what I was just saying. Great. Then the first item is a couple of recognitions. Mr. Buckley, did you have something you wanted to say? You know what? We're having technical issues.
I'm make sure everyone can access as best as you can meet. So,
Bill, if you can hear me, can you text me what you were trying to say, because it's echoing through and it was not clear to the public, I don't believe. If you text it to me, I will announce what you said. But in the meantime, let's go to the first recognition. There are some parents who have initiated a great effort. And Dr. Goff, why don't I let you explain it at first, please?
Sure, and then that way Mr. Hahn can let these community members in. So Juneteenth celebrates African American freedom and achievement while encouraging continuous self-development and respect for all cultures. We have individuals who are currently working on an initiative to purchase Juneteenth related books for our Walpole Public School libraries in an effort to bring more diverse books and conversations to the students in classrooms of our pre-K and primary schools. And those here tonight that we would like to recognize are Shante Holmes, who is the host and parent and organizer. Hi, Shante, it's good to see you. Lauren Whalen Bratzis. Hi, Lauren, parent and team leader at OPR. You can see her on the screen. Leanna Cosgrove. Hi, Leanna. Parent and team leader at Boyden School. And Kristen Kohlmeyer, parent and team leader at Fisher School. So welcome, Kristen. So I just wanted to read the mission of the group, and it's the Multicultural Books Initiative will create more visibility of books in the Walpole Public pre-K and primary schools that lift the voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color and recognize all diverse cultures. So we would really like to recognize these individuals for highlighting the resilience, solidarity, and culture of this BIPOC community. Thank you. And if you want to say a few words, and I know that I think you sent a graphic, and I can share that graphic too as well.
Hi, yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you for having us and for recognizing the great work that we're all doing to bring the voices of children and adults and just people of color to the Walpole schools, and especially to our primary schools where we think it needs to start. So specifically the flyer that I sent, if you can share that with everyone. Thank you. So the flyer is something that we're going to use when we meet with the PAC groups with all of the elementary schools, while we're partnering up with some local bookstores to try to help bring some awareness about the initiative. And it just highlights some bullets about how the initiative came to be, that it was founded by the school parents, and that we are really looking to get the community involved, the media tech, school counselors, principals, everyone involved, because we all play a role in our children's education. It's really important that we work together and try to bring awareness and bring more diverse books. We do have some diverse books in our schools, but we just want to bring some more. I use the word flood in one of my emails because I really think it's important that we really open up the floodgates and really get the books into our schools, and so that we can show the diversity that our town really does represent. Did anyone else want to add anything?
Leanna or Laura or Leanna or Kristen, do you have anything you want to add to what Shantae just mentioned?
Just want to say Shantae was really the person who spearheaded all of this. She was the one that organized our town's first Juneteenth event, and that was the kickoff, and there were some generous people that came in and donated some money for the event, and she had a brilliant idea of taking the money that wasn't needed for the event and rolling it into this initiative, and she really deserves the credit in all of this as being the queen bee of this initiative.
Well, thank you, Shantae, and thank you to all four of you, because I think the most meaningful things happen when community members see an opening and take the time to find a meaningful way to fill that need. I think that we certainly support what you're doing, and we're very, very appreciative of what you are doing beyond what we have been able to do in the general budget. So I can't wait to see the books. I think that the children will really enjoy seeing them, and I think that it's great to share your efforts with the community at large. So thank you very much. Are there other committee members or members of the administration that would like to add anything to what's been said so far?
We have Carrie's hand up.
Oh, sorry, can't see it. Carrie, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to express additional thanks to Kristen, Laura, Liana, and especially to Shantae. I think that, change in this area of cultural awareness and equity can feel really daunting and really complex. And I think there are a lot of people who want to make this change but aren't quite sure where to start. And I think it's So wonderful that you've just jumped in with both feet and are making changes that might feel small, but actually are going to be really, really impactful for our students over the years. So I just really appreciate that. And to that end, I'm thinking there might be a lot of people in our community who would want to support this effort, either by volunteering or maybe contributing financially. So if there are people in the community who want to help out, what's the best way to involve them in this?
Thank you, Carrie. So the best way for anyone who wants to get more information, they can reach out to me directly. My email is smholmes1982@gmail.com. We can also, we've been working with Mr. Dearborn directly at Boyden, and he's been helping us just kind of facilitate all of this and get everyone together. And so for right now, I think maybe just reaching out to myself or one of the other parent leaders, and we can figure out if it's financial donations, we're taking those as well by check directly to Boyden. And it could be made out to the Multicultural Books Initiative.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Dearborn, for supporting this at the school level.
Thank you very much, ladies. You're more than welcome to join us for the rest of the meeting, but at this point we'll move on. We have some students from Walpole High School that have been very involved in encouraging voting, and we want to recognize their efforts this evening as well. So Dr. Goff?
Yes, thank you. So 3 Walpole High School National Honors Society students. I believe there's 3 of them that are virtually present. There may be more. We'll see.
They're here and they're getting moved in now. So
Excellent.
the names know that.
Thank you. To be recognized for their efforts in encouraging all citizens to vote at the upcoming election. So we have Grace Manzo. She's the NHS president. Arnav Mishra, the NHS vice president. Brendan Mahoney, the NHS historian. So all 3 of them will share with you the Get Out and Vote initiative that they and other National Honor Society students participated in. And if you want to mention those students and those names as well, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. So thank you for having us. It's an honor to be invited. So I'll start off by saying that this was actually Brendan's idea, so I cannot take credit for coming up with it. It was his lovely idea. And we just started, Arnav, Brendan, and Ashley Wong, who's the other vice president, and Peyton Nolan, who's our secretary, in a little meeting talking about what we can do to get young people in our high school involved in something in their community that's more impactful than just something within the high school. And Brendan's idea was a voter registration campaign, because a lot of us, especially seniors, are able to vote in this election. So it was good to get the word out to especially people in our school and our own community who are voting for the first time in such an important election as a presidential election, to make sure they knew, where to register, how to register, deadlines, stuff that you might not know, and just people in the community who, we only have an election every 4 years, people forget, things have to get done. So it was just a good way for us to get out and make an impact in the community that can be very impactful on a nationwide level.
That's great, Grace. Arnav or Brendan, do you want to add to what Grace had to say?
I'd just like to say thank you to all the volunteers who came out. It was very cold. They stood out there for a couple hours holding signs. Thanks to Grace and Brendan and everyone else leading NHS for organizing this.
How about you, Brendan? Did they cover it pretty well for you?
Yeah, I think they covered it pretty well. Do you want me to list the students that were there? Would that be?
That would be great, yes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I have it. All right. Here's the list. So the students that were there were Ella Corso, Grace Manzo, Edwin Ryan, Justin Snyder, Renee Abbott, Aaron Foley, Greg Sugas, Nidhi Baragoni, Caroline Gebhardt, Katarina Gebhardt, Lisa Jer, Arnav, Mishra, Kaya, Robin, and myself. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out, and it was awesome. We got a lot of thumbs up and waves and honks, and it definitely felt great to know that we were inspiring people to vote and to register to vote. So it was definitely rewarding in and of itself. So.
Well, great job. And these are the things that just make teachers and administrators and school committee members smile, because the three of you each represented the student body so beautifully with the little bit that you just said. And the idea of zeroing in on the importance of this election, of voting and being engaged and having an impact in your community and your world is something that adults can say it over and over again. But when students speak to other students, I think that's tremendously powerful. And I think you were probably speaking to more than just your peers. I think that, you know, anytime people raise that awareness, you don't know all the people that you're reaching, but you did it in a beautiful way. And I hope that you can actually see that you've had an impact, because I would imagine that there'll be a tremendous number of people showing up to vote on Tuesday, or voting between now and then, or having voted already. So thank you so much for your efforts. You guys make us extremely proud. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other people that would like to comment? Thanks again, and we're proud of you. We're glad to see you this evening, and I believe that the next item is a report that Brendan is going to do as the student rep. Is that correct, Brendan?
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. So Grace and Arnav, if you want to stay and give him some positive feedback for his report, that's great, but it's up to you. So go ahead, Brendan, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brendan Mahoney, and I'm a senior at Walpole High School. So this is week 7 of hybrid learning for the school year, and week 7 is coming to a close. Tomorrow will be the last day of the 7th week. So here I have a few general high school updates and reminders. So students both in school attendance taken daily at the beginning of B block, and individual class attendance is being taken at the beginning of each class, remote and in school. If a student is marked absent, robocalls will be sent out, and I think those calls started being sent out this week. Students will, when learning remotely, must log in with their cameras and microphones on unless they have spoken to their teacher about why they are unable to do so. And lastly, students must remain logged on to their online class for as long as the teacher wants them to, which may vary by class. On another note, the survey for suggestions for a new mascot name for the high school will be closing on October 31st. So if any community member has more suggestions, please get those in, because that will be closing on Saturday. Tomorrow, seniors will be receiving a survey about the remaining pieces of the yearbook, their senior quote, etc. So they should fill that out as soon as possible. As for sports at the high school, fall sports teams are nearing the ends of their seasons, and their records at this point are as follows. Field hockey is 5-0, boys soccer is 0-3-3, girls soccer is 4-0-2, golf is 4-6, boys cross country is 2-1, girls cross country is 1-2, and swimming is 2-5. Clubs and activities at the high school are starting to pick up their speed. Tomorrow, student council will be doing their trick-or-treating event, in which student council members will be delivering candy to kids all across the town who signed up. They've also been accepting donations for this event, all of which will be donated to the American Cancer Society. National Honor Society members went out on the 17th, as we just heard, to encourage people to vote. And this week, the National Honor Society began their peer tutoring lab, which students may be referred to by the teacher or make a request to be tutored in a certain subject. This past Monday, the photography club had their first meeting of the year. Mock trial had their first meetings this week as well, on Tuesday and Thursday. And Best Buddies we will be having our annual friendship walk, and we'll have it at the high school track on Saturday from 9 to noon, and people will come in waves, socially distant with masks on, to do the walk. I think that's all I have for tonight. Thank you guys for listening.
Great report, Brendan. And really, I meant to do this before you started as another recognition, but I think that you students, as well as all of your teachers, deserve an awful lot of credit for the cooperation that it takes to get us to this point. You started your report by saying we're about to complete week 7 of the hybrid learning model. And I think there were a fair amount of adults who didn't think we might make it through weeks 2 and 3, never mind through week 7. And the reason we're able to do it is because people are cooperating. And that was an amazing list of things that you just mentioned that are going on at the high school. Yeah, they're adapted. Yeah, they're different, but you're doing it. And that's something that you and others who are in leadership roles should be proud of, because you know, it's easier to complain than to put things together and make it happen. So congratulations and thank you. And I don't know if there's a way to extend our appreciation to all the students or to your teachers. Tell them we really do appreciate that. Everybody's putting in a little extra effort. And I shouldn't use the word little, because I think people are putting in a lot of extra effort. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other people who want to comment on Brendan's report or anything said so far?
I just wanted to encourage the National Honor Society students to please keep copious notes about your voter registration drive, because we have a bunch of 8th grade civic students who are getting really geared up to be part of our citizenry, and they're going to be there 4 years from now to carry on the torch you guys started. So great job.
Good point, Steve. Very good point. Okay, our next item is going to be about the middle school building project that we're working on. And I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Goff. I think it might make sense to, even before we talk about the ed plan, to just talk about some of the basics. And what I mean by that is to just explain, because some people in the community couldn't hear what we were saying the last time, but what you know, just a basic explanation of what it is we're proposing when we say the middle school project.
Sure. So we started, it seems like many moons ago, and we were invited into the feasibility study for a middle school project, specifically Bird Middle School, with the potential of a consolidation of a 6th through 8 middle school. So those are our options of what the MSBA has really given us, or have the appetite for, in terms of the feasibility piece. So that really started a number of things that we had to do. We had to do, you know, a feasibility study. We had to do an educational profile questionnaire, and there were a lot of deliverables that really got us to where we are now. And where we are now is we have our operating project management, which is Compass. We also have our architect, which is TAPE Architects, so two phenomenal entities, so to speak, that are working with us throughout this process, I should say. So we've done, we've had some visioning sessions, we've had multiple meetings, we've visited many middle school buildings, and we get to the point where it's a couple of areas. One is we have what is called the preferred design plan, and part of that, which I'll get into, is the education plan. And then there's another part that we need to talk about with the community, is to talk about, you know, some options. And some of those options, for example, are to keep, to just focus on Bird Middle School, you know, renovate or build a new Bird Middle School, because that was the MSBA guidelines and what they're willing to support. Or is it to consolidate 6 through 8? Is it also maybe to renovate both middle schools, but the cost comes at a cost because MSBA will only support where we were accepted for Byrd Middle School or consolidation. One myth to dispel, and I think is still probably out there, is that no, we are not taking over the high school. The middle schools, we're not building a new high school. We're not moving the middle schools to the high school. The high school's staying where it is. This is a focus on the middle school project. And part of those deliverables, again, we look at space summaries, we look at locations, and then obviously the education plan. And then that goes all the way into schematic design before it goes obviously for a vote before the town. And then I think, Nancy, you'll mention at the end of this some of the upcoming community sessions that we'll be having.
Exactly, but thank you. That just sort of paints the picture for people. So I thought the first thing we would talk about, because the committee is going to discuss and then vote on the education plan. So can you bring us into that section, please, Dr. Goff?
Sure, and I know if you look at your agenda, that's why we put old business on first for the school committee to make them aware that that's why we're moving that to talk about the education plan, to vote on the education plan, and then we can talk about also consolidation as well as upcoming visioning sessions. So let me get this up, put myself to the side, we can get going. So again, this is basically just what I mentioned, this preliminary design program, and the piece that I'm going to talk about tonight is the actual education program. But all of this goes in and it's submitted before Thanksgiving to the MSBA for their review, for their comments and their feedback. And again, we're working very closely with Tape Architects and Compass. Give me 1 second. So looking at the purpose, the MSBA requires the district to document its educational program and define proposed educational activities. This really enables the school district to work effectively with the designer, also with Compass, with other local stakeholders, to really develop and evaluate and select a design that supports its educational objectives and needs. It allows us to establish a comprehensive and really thoughtful education program that articulates the educational goals and the needs of the district. And it helps to provide also for some future flexibility to adapt to changes in programming, really over the useful life of the school. And as part of it that outlines the educational program, we really consider what we have currently, and then also the potential adjustments and improvements that we could realize with this proposed project. So before I go to the next, I might be able to, do you see, let's see, Nancy, when you look over to the side, because I want people to be able to see as much of the screen as possible, do you see like three or four people on the side? Or do you see
you and Steve Morganwick and Mary? Yeah.
Okay. I might just try to reduce this then. Hold on 1 second. All right. I'm going to put that up on the corner. So I wanted to point out that this educational program isn't this like really light document. It's approximately over 65 pages long. It's very comprehensive. These are all the components that go into the educational program when you're looking at, in this case, a middle school. So I just want to point out to the school committee, while the educational program is substantially complete, that it may be tweaked in reaction to the designer and the community process until the end of that schematic design period. So in essence, the visioning work started long before the educational plan was written. As I mentioned, we visited several newly built Massachusetts middle schools. School committee members went to that as well. And it really provided us the opportunity to ask questions, view effective curricular models and building designs. It allowed us also to gather data on various organizational strategies. So the district began their preliminary design program, or I'll call it the PDP. We assembled key educators, administrators, just for a series of meetings and discussions and what we call educational visioning sessions that were really targeted at formulating specific educational and architectural priorities for the middle school. And these are some of the highlights and priorities that I'm going to talk about that really came out of our visioning session. We know as a middle school that we're committed to educating students in this inclusive environment, and it's an area that values teaming in the middle schools. So this plan defines in the current and the future direction of our educational delivery, and it also examines how teaching and learning really can be transformed if you create this environment that fosters learning, it fosters socialization. This program incorporates 21st century middle school design patterns, and it really aims to support these approaches that will engage our students and foster these higher order thinking skills, foster social emotional learning, and also creating this sensitive need to and understanding to our students in a middle school, the essence of pre-adolescence. So we really can promote this environment where we have our students, our families, our community members really are coming together to this environment that builds confidence, it builds respect, it builds academic excellence, and it builds community. So one of the themes that came through in the visioning statement, and it was huge, was grade level neighborhoods. When I went back to the education plan, the term neighborhoods was actually mentioned, I think it's like almost 80 times, and the word teaming was over 130 times. So there's been much discussion about academic grade level neighborhoods throughout the education visioning process. So teaming is really at the heart of a middle school philosophy. Classroom neighborhoods are organized in this sense by grade level to really support the team-based approach to any type of curriculum delivery. In a consolidated, for example, I know sometimes people are worried about having a lot of students in one building, but each grade level neighborhood would house 3 grade level teams that contain approximately 100 students each. So these classroom neighborhoods, they must be able to serve as their own centers for learning. And they contain a variety of spaces that support these varied groupings and ways of learning. So it can be teacher collaboration, small group work, individual work, and formal or informal presentations. So what do these neighborhoods contain? They contain your general education classrooms. They contain a dedicated science classroom. They contain a STEAM space that's called science, technology, engineering, and math to really facilitate what we call inquiry-based or presentation and project-based learning and collaboration. Each neighborhood, as I mentioned, includes opportunities for study areas and small group work and allows students to be able to move in and out of classrooms and to be able without interruption. And your special education is fully included here. Your English learners are fully included and have support spaces. They're all an inherent part of these neighborhoods. We know that students will obviously need to travel to some central locations in the building for classes such as phys ed or art, music, technology education. So these spaces, what they are is they're officially organized and located. So it allows not only this ease of access for the students, but it gives the creation of this whole sense of connection, so to speak, and really a sense of pride. So in essence, these neighborhoods, they really should have a feeling of home. It's where they feel comfortable, where students can feel safe, and it sends the message to students that they're part of this small learning community, which in turn really connects to the fabric of the larger school. So it really structures these meaningful relationships. It creates a personalized learning environment and really to support the whole development of the child. So I know that was long-winded, but that was so important in the educational plan, and it really needed to be highlighted here. Flexible spacing and breakout spaces. So classrooms really should be designed to be well-sized and flexible enough to support varied teaching modalities and learning modalities. So like I mentioned before, large group, small group, self-paced. All classrooms, and I'm gonna go back to this slide, but I just wanna mention this before I go back. All classrooms should include provisions such as technology infrastructure, flexible furniture, good storage, and natural light. I think everybody mentioned natural light in these visioning sessions. Very important. Some classrooms, if you take a look at the right image, may provide a movable wall. And what this does, it allows for the combining of 2 classrooms into the single contiguous space for team teaching or student presentations. And then additionally, you have neighborhoods that have these common areas or team areas that really support this small group learning and collaboration spaces. So almost like a town square, so to speak, in a larger learning community. It's important to really have these agile spaces that are flexible. Again, you see movable furniture that can be easily rearranged, access to wall space. You can see at the bottom right, really these wall space whiteboards, so they can review work and have multiple instructional materials. And really also to accommodate professional development, because no longer tied to a desk, professional work really can be efficient. It can free up classrooms for increased utilization if you have these professional collaboration stations. And then also these quiet breakout spaces too. So you need small and group and breakout spaces located throughout your buildings and within grade level classrooms. And then also being able to have what we call, you'll always hear the phrase ubiquitous technology. It's where you need it, when you need it. And it needs to be integrated seamlessly to support teaching and learning without any type of hindrance, so it can meet our learning goals. And it's never more so important that we realize this during the pandemic. So really having that accessibility and be able to implement what we call the 4 C's, your communication, your collaboration, your creativity, and your critical thinking. STEAM, I talked about that earlier, the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, or what some other people may know as these project-based spaces. So each team in a neighborhood, each team neighborhood should include a STEAM lab, and that STEAM lab can serve multiple purposes. It engages students in hands-on, project-based learning. It's very flexible. It's maintained by grade level neighborhoods, and the research has shown that results in the highest level of utilization and academic integration. So when you have these dedicated 21st century learning spaces, it allows students, again, those 4 C's, and also really helps them prepare for our ever-changing world. And like I said, again, the pandemic has really shown us that it's essential that our students be equipped with these labs that bring this interactive and immersive experiences through virtual reality platforms. So to be able to learn these skills and then apply them and create these authentic real world solutions. So it can cut across all disciplines. It cuts across the arts, the science, for example, computer science, engineering. And then just another note, the piece here is that these project spaces would enable our middle school students and to help continue to build our robotics program, and then provide additional opportunities to be mentored by and to collaborate with our Walpole High School robotics team. So again, you're seeing that, being able to see that connection from middle school to high school. The media. Some of you may have known this as the library, then the media, and now we're really calling them the learning commons, because your media, your learning commons should be the hub of your school culture and activity. So as such, as you look at these 2 spaces, it should contain a variety of zones. So for example, small breakout rooms, a more active zone for collaboration and group activities, and then you might have a quiet zone for some focused activities. Your digital learning coach, your instructional technology offices, a student help desk should all be located in your learning commons. And then the learning commons should also include, and you can actually see it in the bottom left, there's a space, there's a technology, literacy, and computer science lab. It's almost like another project-based space, but it's really a place where students can be exposed to advanced levels of graphic application and software development and coding or computer programming. And then finally, a multimedia and video lab production studio will support our curriculum focus because it provides, again, students with real world opportunities. So professional sound, lighting, presentation, technology integration. It will be a great space for media broadcasting, video editing, video production, So it will also support our news production team. Both middle schools have a fantastic video production team, and it allows us to serve as a transition to the highly successful Walpole High School TV production team and studio, which also houses our Walpole Media Corporation. So it allows us to continue this community partnership through Walpole Media Corporation, and then it allows also us to create that partnership between our middle school and our high school, because as we know, when our high school students are engaging this TV production, learning these various skills, they proudly hold the Walpole High School Film Festival, right, which allows screenwriting and film projecting, film directing, music composition. So it's really kind of bridging that between our middle and high school students. So great place. Student dining plays a significant role in both our families, our students, and community interactions with the school by providing this flexible space. So not only for meal times, a teaching tool. It could develop perspectives such as eco-literacy. It's also a space that can facilitate community outreach, providing inviting environment for our off-hour community education, so nutrition, cooking skills, other food-related topics. And then also enabled to provide us some vocational opportunities for our special education programming to design in a way that supports job training and hands-on learning for this group of students. So really having this design layout to foster communication, also give us a design and a layout that gives us a meal distribution so we don't bottleneck, and be able to purchase meals and be seated within a reasonable and efficient time, which is very difficult now. And I believe this is a graphic from Beverly Middle School, which we visited. They're a very large middle school. They're 5 through 8. So they have two dining rooms. But you can see off to the distance, they have some breakout rooms and breakout space. So really having that flexibility. Indoor, outdoor spaces. This is really a way to use it beyond your recreational use. It can provide your project space. It can provide social space, performance. If you look on the left, like there's families there at this particular school, so you can have performance venues or community events. It could be used as outdoor classrooms and study areas. Be used for an educational environment, composting, soil sampling, sustainable foods that could all be integrated into a desired requirement for outdoor learning. And you have these indoor-outdoor connections that really become this integral part of a site design. So it's transforming our outdoor learning into learning gardens or environmental laboratories. So we get people to be, students to be engaged. And you can see on the left, just really giving that indoor-outdoor space and that continuity. And performance and enrichment spaces. So really looking at a music program. We have a music program at the middle schools that students take general music or chorus, or they take band or even orchestra. And not a lot of middle schools, I believe, out there have a full-out strings program at the middle school level like we do. So having a music suite that includes these 3 dedicated spaces, ensemble rooms, practice rooms, and performance space in this one contiguous area, and have an auditorium that really can host the Walpole community and can be used by various groups. And the drama program is big at both middle schools, at Bird and Johnson, and be able to really expand on that performance and vocalists and set designers, costume designers, all of that, scenery and artwork. And then you also have your gym, your physical education and fitness. We know that's central, that's important. So to be large enough to have a safe and competitive space, dividers, flexible for use, a room where parents could actually watch a game and watch their children. And then to have it, I'm just going back, a fitness or some type of movement studio that could be used by health teachers, health classes, phys ed, and then also adaptive phys ed for our special education students, some occupational therapy, some physical therapy. So really having this multiple use. One of the strengths that was identified in the visioning session was the strength of the community, both the community at large, but the strength of our actual middle school community. And there was a really strong feeling that that community promotes a safety, belonging, personalization, and there's a pride. So we need to make sure that students continue to feel that personal connection to their community, and that begins at arrival. So these are all just examples of being able for students to have this welcoming and safe experience where we can exhibit student artwork, create personalization, and really support this sense of belonging. And I think the top one is the Kennedy School in Natick that was just built and is set to open. So absolutely a beautiful space. We also know that our families and community members are very integral parts. Our PACs, our school councils, we have booster clubs, our Friends of Music, our English Learner PAC. There's so many that are strong supporters, and we want to continue to build these collaborative partnerships. And really the visioning sessions throughout express this strong desire to build a school facility that allows for community access. So the school in this case would provide spaces that can be used in safe ways, so it locks down. That's why it's on at the other end of the school. And it creates ways for the community to use these facilities after school, on weekends, during summer months. And then finally, of course, last but certainly not least, our safety. We know that our educational visioning and administrators identified safety and security as critical aspects, because we know as students to excel, they need to feel safe and secure. And we looked at ways to promote supervision and observation and key entry points. And it's also important to remember that safety also includes providing space for student support services and student and staff and outside providers for students that might need some mental health support. Students face and are presented with a wide range of mental health issues at early ages, and therefore it's vital that space is provided for these services, and we have these suitable spaces for it. So just a reminder that, how can you stay informed and involved? We put this up, all the time, and to go to the project's website and check it out. Check out the MSBA website. It gives you all of the phases of a school building project, gives you the story of a school building project. And if you have a question or a comment, whether it be about visioning, whether it be about consolidation, you can email us, and that's at that middle school project at walpole.k12.ma.us. And it's really good for us to see those questions or comments, because it helps us give another way to give a pulse of what of community input.
Great.
And that was 65 pages in, I don't know, did I get it done in 15 or 20 minutes?
That was a fantastic summary, Bridget. I'm going to turn it over to the other school committee members and then ask some of the administrators to chime in as well. As a school committee, we've been talking about this educational plan for a while, and I think that now would be a good time for members of the committee to share some of their thoughts, priorities, or input about the educational plan. So is anybody ready to speak? Kristen, go ahead.
Sure. So, obviously 64 pages, it was very thorough. And, I always look at things from kind of two perspectives. One is sort of how it supports all learners, and the fact that there's a lot of special ed connections. There's between STEAM and art and music and everything in the media center, the kitchen that you described. There's a lot of opportunities for people who learn differently to take advantage of the school and of their education at the middle school. So I thought it was great how that's incorporated throughout. I also think when you think about a combined middle school, there are just more opportunities, sort of with the economies of scale and combining things. I know, my son, somebody who struggles with, he's got a language-based learning disability. So somebody who's dyslexic, it's hard to take language in middle school. And there weren't options to not take language. at Johnson, but there were some other options at Byrd. And just because of different populations and different teachers, you can group kids differently. So I think with a combined middle school, there's a lot more opportunity for us to offer different classes or to think about different levels. So I thought that was something that really stood out, that there's, you know, all learners can benefit more from a combined middle school. So I thought that was something that really stood out and we really thought about through this project. Thank you.
Carrie, go ahead.
In my professional career and when I was getting my graduate degree, I did a lot of research into student motivation, what affects student motivation at school. And what I found was a lot of the research says that the two things that students need at school that most directly impact their motivation to succeed academically are a sense of belonging and a sense of self-efficacy. So when I'm looking at this plan, I'm thinking about how does this vision, how can it give students a sense of belonging? Well, those grade level neighborhoods, the pure team model, feeling like you are part of a community within a community where people know you and who you are. They know you very well as a student and as a person, I think would contribute tremendously to our middle schoolers feeling that sense of belonging. And that's the hardest age, frankly, for those students to get that feeling. And when I think about students' sense of self-efficacy and how do we promote that, when I see how the building provides students the tools that they need to do the work that they are capable of doing, you know, I see a lot of choice in terms of where and how students can work. I see a lot of opportunities for students to pursue, to meaningfully pursue the subjects and the fields that are the most important to them and the ones that they thrive in. And I see a lot of opportunities to make the learning relevant and connect it to the community that's around them. And so for all of those reasons, I really feel like this is a plan and a vision that is extraordinarily developmentally appropriate and supportive and is going to promote high academic achievement for the adolescents in the Walpole Public Schools.
Sean, that was well said, Carrie. That was very well said. Sean, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm still so impressed by the quality of the plan. And, you know, I think this is an opportunity, you know, where we could have, you know, dreamt beyond means and, you know, put something together that, you know, it might be timeless, but it wouldn't be impactful to our students. And I think the plan is really responsible in capturing feedback of the staff and incorporating what came from the visiting statements to create something that's, you know, it connects students from elementary to middle to high school. It connects them to each other while they're in the buildings, as Carrie was saying. And it gives them opportunity, like Kristen was saying, to learn in so many different ways based upon how it's set up. And, you know, the learners are set up for success. You know, talking about seamlessly moving from space to space, not just educationally, but technologically. There's a lot of fantastic features here, but, you know, it's not like a pie in the sky type dream. You know, it was really responsibly done and created and looking, you know, how to, you know, best utilize, you know, the funds that come from the town and from the MSBA to create this project.
Thanks, Sean. Jen, it looks like you have something, and then Bill.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I thought that this was really fun. As Bridget mentioned, we, you know, had looked at different schools and we saw how they went about visioning, and some of the schools really went out to California and did some pretty crazy things because they were, you know, like I think when we went to Situate, they said they were pushing the envelope on things. And I think Walpole, you know, we didn't do anything crazy like that. We used what we had and suggestions we got from these tours and our neighbors, and, you know, incorporated some of these really interesting ideas with natural light and just, you know, using other people's experience who've gone through this and, you know, may have had to do something that was a little unusual in the beginning, like these pods and how to make, you know, make it really ready for technology in the future. And we took some of that from local districts. So that was one thing that struck me. And then I also love how we put Walpole's stamp on it, just from the way the plan was written. Thanks, Bill, for that summary, tying it all nicely together to Walpole, which I think was really, really well written. And then just some of the programs that make Walpole unique. I love the fact that we have that film festival and the fact that we have robotics and things that make the high school really unique, and thinking about how we can expand that down to the middle school level and get more students involved, because every student needs to find their place and where they belong. And, you know, so often we hear about sports programs, but a middle school is a place for kids to find their place. And to the extent we have some of these more unique programs, I loved that about it. And that's always been something that I thought Walpole did really well, is that we try to find activities for all students so students can be leaders in different ways. And so, you know, our media is another one that is just amazing to have. So that was something I loved. I also loved the neighborhood feeling, coming from a school that did something similar. I was one of the first in a middle school that was combined like this. And you know, the neighborhood feeling always made me feel, when I went to middle school, that I wasn't being thrust into this big environment where I could flounder, because there was a 6th grade wing and there was a different wing. And I love how we've incorporated that here, and we took a lot of the parent feedback on that. And that's something parents are very nervous about, this idea of combining things. And by having it more of a neighborhood feel, I think that'll really, you know, help with that. So those are just kind of my thoughts.
Thanks, Jen. Bill, you were going to add a few things?
Through you, Nancy, just at the risk of being repetitive, just
No, it's good.
amount of gratitude to Dr. Goff for putting this all together. I know it was a tremendous undertaking against the backdrop of reopening school and many other things, and as well, you know, to our, especially our educational professionals and the others who participated in the visioning process. I think what came out is I really like the fact that all of the things we're doing are student-centered, as we've said before, and we're talking about how do we capture that young learner and how do we make this space work for them. It's not a, you know, there's no solarium in this proposal. There's no pool in this proposal. It's about how do we make this a space. And one of the words that I think came up a few times as Dr. Goff was presenting this plan was versatility of space, using the space to allow for different types of learning, being able to pick up your device and bring it to a center, or bring it and peel off into small groups. So I think all of those things are really important. And I like that, and I'm grateful to Nancy and Jen and others who kind of went out and looked at what some of our neighbors are doing. And I think as a school district, we are aware of the fact that our students are not being educated in a vacuum. We want to be cognizant of what other districts are doing and be sort of in line with that. So I think that was an important piece, you know, early in the visioning statement that was undertaken last year. And finally, as a Johnson alumnus, I think it's important that we earnestly look at the viability of combining the two buildings, because if we don't, I think we all of my colleagues know that we're not going to just leave West Walpole out of this middle school solution. So it would require us, I would think, to kind of go through MSBA again. And so I think when we talk about, I, you know, as a community member on the school committee, am really interested in the forthcoming community dialogue as we talk about, even with the possibility of a combined middle school, how do we continue to strengthen the individual student actor, that individual learner, whether it be through, I am really fascinated by this, not only the teams concept, but the the neighborhood concept. I mean, Johnson's a big square. I was a fifth grader when I went in there. You kind of walk around, it's a sea of lockers and rooms that all look the same, as most of us know quite well. So I like the idea that, it's important that we start to talk about it as a community. And there's a lot of wonderful folks. I say this every time, and my mother hates this, but she's a septuagenarian, and she was the first class into Bird when it opened. And I think there's a lot of people in the community who have that kind of idea of what a building that was built to be a junior high looks like. And we're not just going to build a really big junior high. We're going to, I think, there's so much in this document, which I hope people take the time to read. And I think we should promulgate your summary because it was quite well done. That really shows that even if you bring people together, there's so many opportunities, whether it be because how many times have we talked about programs, extracurriculars, things that get kids excited about going to school that can't run because there's only 3 or 4 kids in that would, but if you put them together, I think there's great opportunity there. Likewise, how this committee and this district has put so much into support staff, be they technology coaches and reading coaches and math coaches, and we can really do, I think, interesting things that frees us up as a district to look at that. So all those things against the backdrop of cost and efficacy are really exciting and really immediate conversations that we're going to be able to begin to have with the community, and I'm excited to be part of them and to hear what people say. But I think I think Sean said it best too. This is a very functional building that is, and this plan is a very Walpole plan. This is not the blueprint for Newton North, to talk about kind of the other end of the spectrum of, so I commend you for it. I'm excited, and I hope many folks as we kind of outline the next steps for people to talk about this, I'm excited for that dialogue, and I hope not only young parents, but some of our community members who have downsized and continue to stay with us, who have brought whole families of children through the schools, can kind of be part of this dialogue as well, because I think it's a very exciting thing. So that's what I got.
Very nice job, Bill. I'm just going to add a few things different from what people have said. I think that now that all the other committee members have spoken, a lot of the major good points have been made. Just for the sake of the community's understanding, in Walpole, when population grew tremendously in the 1990s and early 2000s, the school department was able to address the space needs at the high school and at the elementary schools in the early 2000s. That's when there was an addition and a renovation at Walpole High School. That's when Elm Street became an elementary school, and it's also when Boyden had an addition added onto it. But with all that growth, nothing was done at the middle school level. So it's important to realize that both of our middle school buildings are over 50 years old. Bird is getting close to its 60th anniversary. I believe it's next year, and Johnson just a few years beyond that. So these buildings have served us well, but we are at a point where we need to do either a major renovation for each of them, or we need to do a new building or 2 new buildings. And that's the conversation that we have been preparing to generate with the community. The immediate opportunity that we have is either to address the needs at Bird or address the needs of the whole middle school community. We're not in a position to address Johnson alone. But as Bill Buckley mentioned, we would never support a solution that says we'll take care of half of the middle school students, and good luck to the other ones. So, you know, we are looking at it as we need to find a solution that in time or all at once addresses the needs of all the middle school students. But specific to the education plan, I think that one of the things that came through to me is that it is very possible, if you do it right and you have the buy-in that we have seen coming through loud and clear from our teachers and our administrators, that you can create a wonderful, positive, nurturing, abundantly clear middle school community, even though potentially you have the two sets of students all in the same building. The size of the building, when it's divided properly, when it is planned for properly, creates this community and neighborhood feel that's been mentioned a number of times. And I think that that's really an opportunity that we have. And the other thing that jumped out to me is of the academic fields that we're responsible for, science and technology are the ones that will probably change the most over the next 20, 30, 40 years. And I love the way this project gives us the opportunity to embrace that. It gives us the opportunity to bring young students along and expose them in a visual and relevant way to interesting ideas that could spark interest in things that they don't even realize that they're interested in. Middle school is one of those times where you want to expose students to a broad array of choices. And then as they get older, they can get more selective and choose to take an art class or not, or choose to get involved in something that has to do with graphic arts or technology or environmental science. But in middle school, if you give them an exciting taste of these options, then they begin to see what their opportunities are. So that's another thing that came through loud and clear to me from the visioning sessions and from the education plan. At this point, I'd like to, oh, you were going to say something, Bridget, but then I'd like to turn it over to the other administrators that are here, because in addition to our two middle school principals, some of our central office staff is well-versed in the middle school world as well. So
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was just going to say, Nancy.
okay. All right. So anybody who wants to speak up, just unmute yourself.
Leaning in, but I'm happy to jump in. Just listen, I think Ed and I have talked a lot about the possibilities. We work very closely together daily. I think that this is a wonderful opportunity. The consolidation of the schools would certainly allow the community to see the growth for all learners at this level. And it would provide opportunities that have yet to be imagined for our students. By bringing together the resources, both human resources in terms of our teachers and administrators with their collective creativity, who, by the way, have grown closer throughout this pandemic, who have worked more closely, who have collaborated throughout the springtime and into this year, continue to do so, and who have pushed each other to become even better educators, to have creative and versatile spaces and the shared resources that come along with the tools and opportunities that they bring along for the students. So I think it would be a wonderful, I think it's a chance that we don't want to miss out on for the students of Walpole.
I agree wholeheartedly with Steve. I think it's something that the kids would love. I think it would thrive in a new building all together. Because sometimes, where you are has an effect on your motivation. Am I really slow here? Can you hear me okay?
Mute your camera, Ed.
I'm just going to say it would be terrible not to be able to do. It would be great to be able to do this for the students of Walpole. It really would. There are some of the things that we would love to be able to do, but in our current buildings, we can't do them. We do make attempts to do some of these things like this team, and they do a great job with the TV production, but it's really not what it could be. The potential for student growth in a new building together is really huge. So thank you very much for considering it. And I appreciate the hard work of everybody who was involved, all the teachers, the administrators, Bridget, Bill, all the architects, everybody. It was a lot of work, but it was really invigorating work. So I'm still invigorated, even though I know that we're not even halfway there.
Well said, Ed.
Dr.
Mike?
Goff, I'll be
Go ahead.
brief. Yeah, I'll be very brief because so much of what was said, I don't need to repeat. But one thing that wasn't said, it was alluded to, was that the consolidation of the middle schools will also allow us to eliminate these split teams that are required in our current populations at each of the schools. And I think that's the consolidation allows us to do some really exciting things, but eliminating the split teams is one that would be great, not just for our kids and our students, but also for our teachers and our staff members who are required to oftentimes prep for multiple curriculums across multiple grade levels. So I just wanted to add that to all the wonderful things that were said tonight, and also say that I thought Dr. Goff wrote a great plan that absolutely reflects the very complex and collaborative visioning sessions. And that's not easy to do, and I think it's reflected in this plan very well. Thank you.
Bill, could you just explain briefly to the people that might be listening what you mean by the cross teams that are not necessarily ideal?
Sure. In our current population, based on the amount of students that we have and the amount of staffing that we have, most years at the middle schools, you typically have one and sometimes two teams that are two different grade levels. So a team of teachers are the four core content areas. And then in sixth grade, an additional math teacher, and in seventh and eighth grade, a foreign language teacher. And in some cases, well, in every year, we have teams that are split because of the way the number of students that we have at each of the grade levels, so that some of our teachers have students from sixth grade and seventh grade on their team, or from seventh grade and eighth grade. And by consolidating, we'll now have better balance with numbers, and our staffing numbers will, I guess by calculation or by formula, fit better into the number of students that we have, allowing us to eliminate those split teams and having 3 sixth grade teams, 7 eighth grade teams, 3 seventh grade teams, and 3 eighth grade teams. Sorry about that. And so
I think that that's just an important part to explain, because it sort of begins to make people realize that you do have more scheduling options as you have a larger population coming together, and that does create opportunities. So thank you. That was great. Carrie, you were going to say something, and then we'll go to Mike Frisha.
I just wanted to add on to Bill's explanation of the cross teams. Having worked in a middle school where we recently were able to move to pure teams after having some cross teaming, when you have cross teams, you really limit the collaboration potential of the staff, because typically a grade level might have its own schedule. And so let's say you're a teacher teaching 6th and 7th grade, and you really want to go to a meeting or have collaboration time with your 6th grade teachers, but you can't because you're scheduled to teach a 7th grade class at the time the 6th grade teaching team is meeting. If you have teams that are grade based, that means that you can promote collaboration across those grade level teams. And so if you have, let's say, 3 6th grade teams, they can work on initiatives for the entire grade. Whereas if you don't have multiple teams in a grade, it's harder to sort of come up with new and innovative ideas and to say, oh, I hear this all the time. Somebody said like, oh, so-and-so was telling me on their team, they tried this and it worked great. So what if we try it on our team? When you only have one team in a grade, or the teams have different configurations that are unique, you're just limiting, I think, teachers' potential to do more innovative thinking and more collaboration and really serve the students as well as they can be.
The thing that I would add to that too is from the student's perspective, their cohort feels half as big because half of they're on the smaller half of the team. So, yes, some kids find friends easily, but some kids don't. And sometimes it also, from a student's point of view, is a good thing to have a different teacher for their 7th grade class than they had for their 6th grade class, especially if it wasn't a great year when they were 6th graders. So I think that there are student opportunities as well as teacher opportunities. And Mike Frisha, I know it was a while ago when you were a middle school teacher, but you've also been very involved in this whole process. So I would imagine you have a few thoughts related to your own experiences or just what you've seen as you've seen this project develop.
So stepping away from the educational end of things just for a moment, I'd like to just talk about the building and the opportunities I see from my position now. And one of the things I'm referring to is a centralized kitchen, upgraded facilities that are designed to, house a program like our food service program, which is such an amazing program. That's an opportunity, whether it comes through or not in the end, just the thought of that and just recognizing that program for what it is. The other thing I'd say as a resource, the auditorium and the gym are spaces that our schools have now, but are so dated. And we make them work, and that's fine. And it generates a lot of rental income. We get to do a lot of things with in our district. But this would be a whole nother level of service provided by these buildings. And the community would get to use these spaces. And it just would feel, I think, so different for our community, for our kids, for our parents, everyone to be able to utilize a new space of this caliber. So I think it's a great opportunity for those things. And I love the idea of a separate community entrance, better to manage, easier to manage. So really some great opportunities infrastructure-wise. I think everyone spoke so well about the middle school aspects that would be serviced by this building. I think I would just be redundant at this point. So I'll stick with the building, but thank you.
Great. So one of the things that we do need to do is we need to take a vote on the education plan. And just for the sake of the community members who may be listening, we talk about the MSBA. That's the state organization that partners with cities and towns to build schools in Massachusetts. And the wonderful thing is it comes with a significant amount of money. The challenging thing is it comes with a lot of pieces and a lot of work, and this educational plan is one of the pieces. But it really is an opportunity to potentially capture millions of dollars from our state taxes that other towns have used to benefit their schools, and we would like to use that in this case. So we're following the MSA process, and we will decide to vote on the educational plan tonight. And there'll be a number of other steps that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. Dr. Goff or are there, or let me start with you, Dr. Goff. Are there any pieces that you want to add before we talk about voting on the ed plan?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. Are there any further questions from school committee members? Questions or comments? If not, then I would take a motion to support the draft of the educational plan as written, knowing that it still may be tweaked, but that's what we're looking for at this point. Kristen?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the education plan.
Second.
Okay, and could we say in draft, the draft of the?
Oh, sure, the draft education plan. Perfect.
We have a motion by Kristen, a second by Bill. I know that people feel strongly about it, but are there any other questions or comments that people want to make before we take this vote? If not, then I'll do a roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
And myself, Nancy, yes. So that's an exciting piece. I know that for people in the listening audience, you might not realize the amount of work, but I know that we have put in our time, but it's nothing compared to the time that Dr. Goff especially and all the administrators have put in. So thank you for the work that you've done. That vote was unanimous, 6-0-0.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so the other two topics within this conversation are consolidation and parent outreach. I think we've covered consolidation fairly well this evening. I just want to go back a few steps because one of the things that will get decided between now and the end of December is whether or not we're going to recommend to the architects to develop a plan for a 905 student school or a 450 student school. A 450 student school would mean that we are thinking about addressing the needs of Bird only. The 905 would be that we would be addressing the needs of the students on both sides of town. I think you can hear from what we have already said that there are a number of positives from an educational point of view about consolidating the two buildings. I think that obviously the elephant in the room is the cost, and we'll be getting some information about cost in preliminary form in the next few weeks, I believe. But that will obviously be factored into our decision. What happens next is the project management team and the architect are taking our input and they're developing, I believe it's 7, maybe 8 different potential options, because we're going to consider whether it makes sense to renovate, whether it makes sense to do a new building of a small size, a new building of a larger size, and we're considering the different sites where these can be done. So we will be getting some information and very rough financial estimates, but at the beginning, we just wanted to make an evaluation from an educational point of view. So we know that cost is a big driving factor. I know, Bridget, you had a set of considerations that we should think about when it comes to consolidation. And we've talked about some of them tonight. Are there some points that you feel like need to be brought into the mix now that we haven't talked about yet?
No, I think I was kind of checking them all off my list. I think that, you know, and you're talking about from an educational program?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about, people brought up the equitable access to, obviously, to our resources in 21st century. Somebody talked about equitable access to student services. I think one thing that we may not have mentioned was in terms of our special education programs. We have special education programs that are housed in each school. They're specific based on the location. So sometimes a special education student that needs a more substantial or separate or partial inclusion, depending on that student's needs, would be assigned to that school based on years ago, you know, space. But this way, everybody goes, if it's consolidated, every student goes to one building. So it's everybody stays within their neighborhood school because you have one neighborhood. And everybody's able to access those resources to be moving in and out of classrooms. So I think that was one of the things. And then Mike talked about community access. I think the other thing, and I think Sean, you had mentioned this too at one point, I think a couple weeks ago, was about this diversity, allowing students to experience greater diversity among students and staff, and the different cognitive, social, and emotional educational benefits in diverse classrooms, including all students. And students can learn from classmates with different backgrounds and different perspectives, and really prepares our students in this global environment by, you know, we create leaders who are able to collaborate and think critically and problem solve in this type of diverse and multicultural environment. So really allowing them to participate in these civic activities that result from diverse learning. So I think that's important to note.
Are there any other points that any other school committee members want to add to the conversation related to the pros and cons of a consolidated building? I would just add a couple of things. I think that in a building the size that we would get if we combined, I think that there's an opportunity for some extracurricular or co-curricular activities. And I think it was alluded to before, but you know, if there's a group of students that are interested in environmental science, it might be 2 kids at one school and 3 kids at the other. Maybe that's enough to have a little club after school or an exploration group. I also think that you could have some fun intramural sports type things. I think that one of the potential worries that people might have is right now the school is small enough so that if it seems to me at least that every kid who wants to participate in the plays that go on can find a way to do that. Well, maybe we would have 2 different types of performances. Maybe you would have a musical performance and a more dramatic type performance or a Shakespearean type thing. I think that in terms of curriculars, extracurriculars and co-curriculars, there are some opportunities to sort of dream a little bit outside the box there. I know that when it comes to concern about the size of a school, I think that there are some people who feel like, well, kids could get lost in the mix because it would be easier to find my child in a 450 student school than in a 900 student school. And I really do think that it's that concept of the neighborhood and the team that the student is on that provides that comfort that a student should not get lost regardless of which size the building is. And I think that it's about creating a positive school climate that helps kids to feel like everybody belongs, everybody's accepted, as Dr. Goff was just mentioning. I also did a little bit of some research on towns nearby, and there are, if we were to have a 900 student school, it's very much in line with a lot of the towns nearby. Braintree has one that's 1,200 and one that's 800. Canton has, most recent numbers that I got were 768 students. Dedham has 674, Easton has 877, Foxborough has 822, and I could keep going through my list, but the majority of towns do have schools in the 800 or more student range. Not every single one of them, but most of them do. So we're not talking about something crazy outside the box either. Are there any points? Yeah, Jen, you want to add to that?
Another thing just to consider is just the enormous amount of work that goes into this, and to, you know, have another school that's as old as Johnson is, and to turn around, you know, I don't know how quickly we could get into the program, but to have to go through this all again, it's a lot of work. And economies of scale is another thing. We're talking about it in terms of activities and such, but in terms of special education, in terms of greater class offering for students, there's definitely cost savings associated with a combined school, you know, especially when you have, you know, you're talking about languages and scheduling issues that we have at the middle school. And I don't have a student in the middle school yet, but from what I understand, you know, it's a very tough scheduling environment. So, you know, just having more students opens up more classes and more opportunities. Those are just a couple other points that came to mind.
Are there any other points that any of the other administrators want to add to the whole topic of consolidation? Okay, I think then that we'll move on from that, just alerting the community to the fact that as when Dr. Goff gave that email address about the middle school project, if you have questions that you want answered, whether it has to do with the education plan, whether it has to do with the topic of consolidation, or anything related to this middle school project, all kinds of questions can go to that one email address. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about is the fact that during the month of November, there are going to be 3 opportunities for families with young children to get more information from us. And one of them is targeted at the community at large. The other 2 are targeted more towards families with young kids, but all 3 of them are open to anybody who's interested in attending. Our plan is, I actually don't have my calendar in front of me, Dr. Goff, but I believe it's
I have it.
You have it? Why don't you just tell me the dates, please?
I do. November 5th at 7:30.
Okay.
We focused on Elm, Boyden, and Daniel Feeney.
Okay.
And Tuesday, November 10th at 7:30. And that was OPR Fisher. And any other preschool. And although we're trying to create a balance to the participants, if people are unable to attend one assigned date, please feel free to join the other. And then we have a community input session, and that's for anybody, on November 24th.
Tuesday, November 24th, yes.
Correct. And that's at 7:30. And that's with Compass and TAPE, and they're going to hold a more formal session to gather more community input.
And those are the professionals that we've hired to help us. They are always good with visuals, although Dr. Goff gave them a run for their money tonight, because your visuals are a big help. They really are, Bridget. So we have worked together to put together a message to the parents at Elm, Boyd, and Feeney, Old Post, Fisher, and all other preschools. And I know a lot of people on the school committee have already given input. I'd like to try to get that out tomorrow, if at all possible. So is there any other feedback that anybody wants to give?
Nancy, I believe that, and I'll double check, but I believe the project community meeting on the 24th is at 7, not 7:30.
Okay, so we'll fix that. And I did not see any feedback. I think that people feel like the letter's ready to go. Okay, Mary, I'll work with you first thing tomorrow and we'll get that out, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right, then that gets us to our first item of new business. And we took the vote already on the education plan. I was just gonna say, Ed and Steve Morganwick, we're not gonna get our feelings hurt if you have to go put your pajamas on. But if you wanna stay, you're more than welcome to stay. Okay, our next
A long couple of weeks, thank you.
I betcha. Our next
Thank
topic
you.
is the rebranding conversation. So, do you want to say anything, Bridget, or should we just turn it over to Mike Frisha?
Turn it over to Mr. Frisha.
All right. So just a little background. With the school committee vote last spring to replace the Rebel name with a new name, that began a campaign to raise funds for this effort. A student at the high school took the initiative to begin this campaign. And what I'd like to just share with the community is the letter that Bridget sent out through her communications, and I think it went out through a few other means, kind of summarizing the effort here. Because it was an unfortunate part to it, but I think that in the long run, we're putting things in place that need to be done. So the fundraising began this summer through various efforts, including a GoFundMe account initiated by a high school student. Unfortunately, due to timing issues related to a fairly complicated GoFundMe transfer process, the funds were not transferred to the school department and instead were returned to the donors. It is important to note that this unfortunate situation was not the result of any error on the students' part, who actually took the initiative, as I mentioned earlier, and the call of action. This was a significant setback to a really well-intentioned fundraising effort that had strong support from the community. The school committee and school business office have worked together to provide an alternative method for making donations. This new process ensures the funds donated go directly to the school department and are readily available for purchases such as uniforms and et cetera, related to rebranding. Going forward, individuals interested in making a donation can send a check made payable to the town of Walpole with sports rebranding referenced on the check. Check should be mailed to Walpole Public Schools, 135 School Street in Walpole, and a charitable donation letter will be provided upon request for your personal records or for any matching corporate gift. So just wanted to give an explanation that unfortunately the funds that we originally had intended on getting didn't come through, but I think tonight we had our first donation through the new process, and hopefully that'll be followed by many donations to come. And that's kind of a summary of what happened, unfortunately, but again, I'm encouraged by what's to come. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for Mike Frisha? Thanks, Mike. I think that covered it well. Mr. Ahern.
Mr. Buckley raised his hand.
Oh, okay.
Oh, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, I just want to, thank Mike for your explanation. I think in the past you've mentioned that GoFundMe is not the ideal portal for school districts, municipalities, government entities to raise funds, and Ms. Cameron was great within a few days of our decision, kind of spearheading this, and I'm sure all the good-willed folks of Walpole who have already donated initially will surely do so again. And I'm excited that as we kind of move forward and continue to bring to this committee kind of information about the overall cost of renaming, as well as the work of the renaming committee kind of comes to the fore, we'll have a lot more opportunities for folks to donate and give and move to someplace new.
Thank you, Bill. I guess I would just add that at this point, we have a list of roughly $150,000 worth of sports uniforms or clothing related items that need to be replaced over time. We have reached out already to some major corporate sponsors, and as Mr. Frischer just mentioned, we have the benefit of a donation that came in already, but we are looking for anybody who has connections to some of the major corporations to help us. We've got some people who have already started to try to reach out, and we will be in touch with them in the very near future to do some follow-up. But if people have other good corporate connections, that would be helpful, because in addition to this $150,000 worth of uniforms or clothing related, there are other items that need to be replaced, so bringing the total probably closer to 250,000 rather than 150,000. And some of the things are going to be covered in time if they were due to be replaced. For example, the turf field at the high school was replaced recently. Am I correct on that, Mike?
Correct.
But if it was scheduled to be done this coming year, and there was something that said Rebels on it, which I don't believe there is, then that would happen in due course. So some of the items beyond the uniform, well, uniforms get replaced every couple of years too by the sports teams. So we need, this is going to take a cooperative effort with the fundraising as well as what normally happens as sports teams progress through the years. But we are very, very appreciative to Annie Cameron and her family for the help that they gave us getting this off the ground. And if there are people that feel like this is something that they're passionate about and want to get involved in helping to make our fundraising more effective, we would love to hear from you. So those are the points that I wanted to make. Are there any other things related to that? Okay, Mike, when we were talking the other night in our workshop, we were talking about the fact that we wanted to alert the community to understand that if they want their children to buy lunches at school or to ride the school bus or to participate in extended day, even though it's a little bit counterintuitive, we're looking for that right now. Can you talk a little bit about those three areas and the fact that if people would like to get a pass for the bus, that you'd be glad to hear from them, and those other areas as well?
Sure, and after our conversation, dealing with just buses first, after our conversation the other night, I talked to Kim Poirier. She has an accurate list of families who had signed up originally and then decided to move away to leave space for other students who didn't have an opportunity to get to school any other way but taking the bus. Some of those people have reached out to Kim, not many off the list, and when they have, Kim has put them on the bus because they've needed to at that point. And she said that she deals with people on a weekly basis who come back and say, you know, I realize there's space on the bus. Can you accommodate me? And Kim has worked with every one of those people. I would offer that up to people that really need this service and need a way to get their kids to school. I know that it's an ever-changing environment we're living in with this pandemic, and situations change daily. So we would love to accommodate those needs. I would say that if everyone came rushing back, we would have a problem, right? We wouldn't have enough buses, and everything that everyone has done so far has made that possible. So I want to, again, thank everyone in the community for making the sacrifices. And I know they are sacrifices to free up seats for other students to ride. But yes, if you feel that you're in a situation you need to ride, please reach out to Kim Poirier in the transportation office, and we will make every accommodation to get your children on the bus. So that's buses. Food service. There is a mandate from the federal government this year to feed all students in the district for free without charging. We literally are not collecting money this year. We are funding our program through the reimbursements from the federal government. So every time a child comes to school and eats breakfast or lunch, the federal government pays Walpole either $2.25 approximately or $4.25. $2.25 for breakfast, $4.25 for lunch. So by participating in our program, you're actually generating revenue for Walpole Public Schools. A great example of that is the food that's being provided on Wednesdays to families who need food and their students maybe are not in school. The food service program is giving out either 10 or 14 days worth of food each Wednesday for those students. And that goes for every student. So if you had 3 kids in Walpole schools, you would get 3 amounts of that 7 days or 14 days of food, 10 days or 14 days of food. So it's a lot, but again, you are contributing. So I know it's ironic. It sounds strange for us to think of it this way, but participation is driving revenue, and it is showing up in a big way for this program. And it will be the saving grace for our program this year because we are not charging for meals. So we really need participation from everyone. So please participate in the program is my message for food service. Extended day and the remote day program both have spaces available. So extended day, the traditional before school, after school program is available in all schools. They have spaces. If you'd like to sign up, please reach out to Devin Clifford, who is the extended day coordinator, and he will make accommodations to get your children into the program. And then there's the remote day program, which is either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. And that program also has availability, and those students are in Blackburn Hall, and they have wireless access. They have staff there that support them in their learning, make sure that they're able to access their assignments, that they're able to get wireless access and participate in the class and do those types of supervisory things that kids need in all grades. So that program goes from K to 8th grade. And that is open to anyone who is interested. So extended day and remote day programs have availability. Would love to have your kids there if you need that coverage. That cover it, Nancy? Any other?
No, I think that's a good message. Everybody help us out and get a lunch or two. If you need help with the bus, or if extended day, either version can meet your needs, you'd be helping us out. We very much appreciate the fact that people backed off at first to let the people who needed the programs the most, but now you're welcome, and we hope you're listening. Sean, you were going to add something?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Mike, the lunch programs, both the in-school and the remote day pickup, are any of those need-based, or can they be accessed by any family?
So it's not really needs-based. Obviously, that is incorporated within it if you have those types of needs, but it is for any family. And I've been just spreading the word to families. If you are looking for this convenience or this opportunity, come in. We've had, I think last Wednesday, we had 300 vehicles come to the high school. This is all done through the high school. 300 vehicles come to the high school. 6,000 meals were provided to families. So to give you a perspective, it is not just people of need, it's people participating in the program. They like the food, they enjoy the service that we're providing, and they're able to get in and out relatively quickly for that amount of people. So great question, Sean. It's wide open to everyone, just like a normal school day would be.
Jen?
How about ordering for Wednesdays? There's no ordering anymore, right? You just drive up and pick up?
You drive up, you pop your trunk, they put the bags in there because it's obviously with masks on, everything's sanitary, and you drive off. People are amazed. I would say come up and try it out. You would be surprised how efficient it is. And it's very good food that they're providing. This, for Thanksgiving, they're going to be doing turkeys next week for families that need turkeys. So come on up and, enjoy the program.
And what are the hours of pickup again?
That's a good question. I believe 9:30 to 1, but let me verify that with Maria.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Great, and thank you, Mike. Okay, we've got just a couple more items. A brief report from the fall town meeting and the appropriation received, Dr. Goff? Or
Yep. I'm gonna let Mike keep going. He's doing such a great job, and everybody's
go,
heard
Mike.
probably enough of me, so we'll keep him going.
Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit and then explain a little bit. So the fall town meeting was held on Saturday, October 17th at 1 p.m. Everyone was out on the Walpole High School field, Turco Field, and the following appropriations were approved at town meeting for the school department. So the annual transfer of Medicaid, McKinney-Vento receipts, and student parking fees in an amount totaling $318,734 were transferred from the town's collections to the school department. This is a normal process, takes place every year. When we budget, when I build a budget for the school department, I deflate knowing that this revenue is coming in. In anticipation of that, those accounts are adjusted. The one thing I will say about that is that Medicaid last year, federally funded program, was estimated to be cut in half. So about a $250,000 loss from what the prior year was. One of our staff, Kathy Coleman, did a fantastic job of giving us the foresight to see this coming, projected it at that level, and it came in actually a little bit higher than what she projected, tiny bit higher. So fortunately, we made our adjustments. We made accommodations to cover this. We moved funds from last fiscal year to this fiscal year and filled that gap. So it was not a surprise. It's unfortunate because it's $250,000 we had to come up with from somewhere else in the middle of a COVID situation, but we did it and it's covered, and we're moving on into FY22 soon enough. The second thing I would just like to cover is the parking fees. So just so everyone knows, the parking fees that are collected at the high school go towards offsetting the transportation budget for yellow buses. Because of the hybrid situation we're in now, the fees have dropped off significantly, creating a gap within the money that we have to provide for the transportation contract. So that drop off is, let's say, about $10,000. It's not the end of the world, but it's a drop off. When you couple that with the reduction in all the fees we're collecting for buses this year because of our situation we just talked about earlier, we have a very significant drop off that we're working on with the town administrator to cover. And that will be a significant challenge. We're talking about over $300,000. So we are working hard to get that covered, figured out, could not anticipate that. And we're doing everything we can to fix that. I'm confident we will, but I just want people to understand that how this process works. The third item on the list was the capital budget funds were allocated for the purchase of projectors, LCD projectors in the classrooms. That was $65,000, and computer technology lab equipment up at the high school, which was $80,000, which also included improvements to the wood shop. So did very well with our capital. These funds, it's lower than what we've traditionally done because of the pandemic we're in, but the really positive thing is COVID funding has been added to this technology purchases. And as Bill and Bridget both know, we have done like no other year ever in history, bought more technology, provided more resources to the school department. Bill has been amazing with the remote program, providing that service on a shoestring budget. And when you're able to do that, you're able to use the money that's remaining for all these technology purchases. So we've spent over $1 million of this 2.2 million given to the town on our needs, and those include staffing and technology. So it has been an amazing help to our budget this year. We're up against a December 30th deadline that I know Nancy and Bill are both working on, advocating, pushing that deadline closer to the end of the year to help us. But that's all still playing out right now. Even today, I was working on getting some additional funding from this resource. So COVID funding is a very intricate topic this year.
Are there any questions for Mike? Jen?
Not a question, but I was going to answer my question from earlier about the time to pick food up. Based upon the last email we got from the nutrition department, it's 10 to 1 at the high school.
So Jen, good question. She may push that earlier because there's been so many people participating. So I would say to that point, watch your communications because there may be one coming out very soon on that timeline.
Great.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, thank you for that. And might just as well bring it home, Mike. The 2022 budget timeline is in our packet, probably mainly as an FYI.
Definitely as an FYI. The things I would say, I'll try to keep this brief, is that it is going to be a very challenging year for us. A lot of unpredictables. We've had a lot of support from the town, Jim Johnson in particular. He's continuing to support us and work with us, and we're working with him. So I anticipate that will continue into next year. And that we'll have to really keep our eye on that COVID funding, because will that play a role? And one-time money, are we able to carry any money forward from this year's budget to next year's? Those are the big items that can help us. But there will be a big gap to cover coming through last year, FY21 into FY22. And we've had a lot of discussions about that. I don't see anything unusual about the process itself. The timeline is very prescriptive, and I don't anticipate any real challenges with that part of the process.
Thank you. And again, this year we've decided to not have a budget subcommittee, but do budget as a workshop with the 7 of us, because it is an extremely unusual year. It provides learning opportunities, but we're going to all have to work together on the budget going forward. Are there any questions? In our packet, there was information from Tape, who's the architect. That's just an FYI. The school building committee has voted on that to approve those expenses, and that was just in there as an FYI.
Correct. And going forward, it probably won't be, because it really doesn't need to be. And we had some discussions today with Tape and Compass, who gave us a little bit of revised guidance. So it's more, to your point, Nancy, an FYI, but will not need to be included in.
Okay, that gets us to the next item, which is the superintendent's report. And I just want to say before we do that, we're getting close to the point where we would take citizens' comments. So if there are any citizens who have a question or a comment, your time is coming up in probably less than 10 minutes. And the way to participate will be through the chat feature on Zoom. So just to give people a little bit of an alert. But the next item is the superintendent's report.
Just a couple of things to add regarding our case counts. The case counts and rates will now be released from the state on Thursdays. It was originally Wednesday at 4 p.m. Now it's Thursdays. I think today I got it about 6:30. So if I'm able to get in time on those days prior to school committee, I'll be able to let you know. So regarding the count and the rate of confirmed cases in Walpole, we are still in the yellow. So we're at 6.9, which is 1.57%. So those were the weeks of 10/11 until 10/24. So it did tick up a little bit, but it did not put us in the red. We're still yellow. And I know that if you look, a lot of our neighboring or surrounding communities are in red. I'm working on a community health metrics and data dashboard tracking. It's just about complete. I'm just working collaboratively with the Board of Health and our head nurse. So it's really a graphic that will help community members that I'll put on the Walpole Public Schools website. So it'll have certain metrics. For example, have the metric of what's the Massachusetts positive test rate, and then the second one will be the Norfolk County cases, and then another metric will be the contiguous, our surrounding communities, and average them, and we'll include including Walpole in that. And then the last metric is the Walpole positive test rate, and then those will light up according to their color code, whether it be green, no color green, yellow, or red. And then I'll also have a tab that will keep a count of any cases in Walpole Public School. So we can go back, and community members can go back and take a look at the week in the case count and the school as well of those individuals. So as a school district, although we put these protocols in place that have proven to work, for example, cohorting students to minimize risks and assist with help assist contact tracing, our social distancing, our cleaning supplies, masks. We have to remember we can only control on what happens in our schools, and it's proven to work effectively. Since 9/13, we've had 10 cases in all 8 of our schools. So this means it looks like our protocols are working. However, we just need to remind the community to continue and to keep doing their part. Outside programs, those even including our youth sports teams and our coaches of youth sports, just to continue to help us out by ensuring that we're following the protocols that we need to do so. Because an outbreak or a cluster from an outside program, we know no doubt will impact our schools, and we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick in that area. If we do at some point, like other communities, go into the red, we have been encouraged to examine 3 weeks worth of metrics, and then also relevant context to the specifics and what the trends are. So we work very closely with Melissa and the Board of Health in terms of taking a look and making decisions. I also want to thank those families that completed the survey. We're keeping it open for 1 more week. All families received a survey link through the X2 portal, and it will provide us with some valuable feedback about the opening of schools, the health and safety of our students, and important information regarding student learning. Because as you know, we're committed to being reflective as we progress through this process. And then it was great. It's great to continue to get out to the buildings this week. I was at Walpole High School, Boyden, Fisher. Today I was at Daniel Feeney and Bird, and tomorrow morning I'll be visiting Johnson. So really wonderful to see the classes in action, and I'm really impressed with the adaptability of our students and our staff. It's heartwarming. And I also wanted to end by turning it over to Bill Hahn to talk about the wonderful cultural proficiency training that a group of us received this week. That was probably one of the most engaging sessions that I've been involved in a while. So I'll turn it over to you, Bill.
Yeah, on Wednesday, as Dr. Goff mentioned, we started our journey working with KW Diversity, specifically Dr. Warnham, in cultural proficiency training, which, as Dr. Warnham said, is a vehicle to talk about equity in our schools. And the session included 26 Walpole Public School participants, which included members of the Leadership Council and members from teachers and support staff from each school. And this was after a consultation with Dr. Warner, what we thought was our best way to kick off this work within our district. And Dr. Goff summed it up pretty well. Dr. Warner was in high demand, and the fact that we had the opportunity to work for her is awesome. And it was very evident on Wednesday why she is in such high demand, because for 2 hours, she kept everyone so incredibly engaged and really invested in the work. And also talked about that as a district and as a group of 26 individuals starting this work, we're going to need to have some difficult conversations and push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. But as consulting and working with Dr. Warner, we know we're going to do this well and thoughtfully. And as I said on Wednesday to the entire team, this is really our first step in that journey. And that journey will extend well beyond this year. And I think I mentioned it once, so I'll just remind you again. We also have an opportunity for Dr. Warner to work directly with the school committee members this year. So before the end of the year, hopefully in the winter, sometime in the spring, we'll set up a session or two so you can hear directly from her about the great work that our district is engaged in and committed to. So thanks, Dr. Goff. That's my update.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. Somehow I lost my screen, but our next item is the subcommittee activity, and I don't believe there's anything to report there.
Correct.
We had a meeting yesterday of the superintendent evaluation subcommittee that we'll report on it at the next meeting. So that does get us to the citizens' comments. Bill or Kristen, do we have any citizens who are interested in commenting?
No, we have not received any comments in the chat box, and in the attendees, there are no citizens.
Okay.
Nancy, I have one quick thing if there are no.
Sure.
I just want to remind the community, and I'll put something out, and perhaps Mary could as well. One of the best things we get to do as a school committee is adjudicate and award the Fales, Leach, Rogers, and Cundy scholarships, and that deadline is Monday. So just if people know of Walpole High School graduates who are currently enrolled in a college or university, I strongly encourage them to apply. Sean, you're in for a treat, like a huge stack of things to read right between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but it's I know I can speak for all of us, it's a tremendously rewarding part of what we do. For families who had a lot to do with Walpole giving back, and so it's we hope as many people as possible, despite the pandemic, can avail themselves of the opportunity to apply before the deadline on Monday. And it's on the front page of our website at Walpole Public Schools, but just want to continue to bring that to folks' attention.
Good point, Bill. Thank you. Okay, just checking one more time in case there were any late attendees. Nothing in the chat, Kristen? Okay.
Nope.
All right, let's go then to approval of warrants, donations, and minutes. Sean?
Yes, I would love to make a motion to approve the following accounts. The following expense warrants for the amounts listed in your packet. Those numbers are 221015, 221016, 221017.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sean, a second by Carrie. Apparently, we're paying a lot of bills these days. So I'll do a roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
And Nancy, yes, 600.
I would also like to make a motion to approve the following payroll warrants for the amounts listed in your packet. Warrant number 2114 PA and 2116 PA.
Second.
Okay, we have, again, a motion by Sean, a second by Carrie. Roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Nancy? Yes, 600. Thank you. And that gets us to donations. Somebody want to take that?
Sure.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve the following gifts and donations to Boyden School, Fisher School, Old Post Road School, and Johnson Middle School from Bay State Textiles and Recycling in the amount of $528. The Boyden School, Elm Street School, Fisher School, and Old Post Road School from the John E. Langley Foundation Elementary School books in the amount of $20,000. Walpole High School from Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, a mini grant in the amount of $500. And to Walpole High School from BSN Sports for the renaming fund in the amount of $450.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Carrie, a second by
Kristen.
Kristen, sorry, just didn't see it. Another roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Nancy? Yes. 600. Thank you very much for those generous donations. And lastly, we have some minutes.
I can take those.
Thanks,
Go
Kristen.
ahead. All right, recommend a motion to approve the October 8th, 2020 school committee meeting minutes and the October 22nd, 2020 school committee workshop minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Kristen, a second by Bill. Again, a roll call. Bill?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Nancy? Yes, 600. And that gets us to the end. We just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is that Kristen? Jen?
Jen.
Okay.
Sorry,
by,
Carrie.
a motion by Jen. I'm giving the second
Get
to
there
Kristen.
someday.
Okay. And roll call quickly. Bill?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Nancy? Yes, 600. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to you administrators for the work that it took to get this together. It was a good meeting. Thank you.